like I was saying, sorry I'm a bit late. Audio issues. Uh, audio issues. I'm saving up for a device that will help me manage audio on a two PC setup. I'm saving up for it. It'll be awesome. It will be awesome. All right, how's everyone doing this week? Hopefully well. A little off center. There we go. Fix that. Hopefully everyone's doing well. The show will start in about 5 minutes, so we'll jump right into the news in about 2 to 3 minutes. Yeah. I guess while we talk about that, I can talk about I need your all's help. If you guys have a Mighty Mindy Monday that you would like to see, if there's a thing that we've done on stream, I'm actually going to do tomorrow's on a little trick to do multiple line commit messages that I have shown on stream, that even some of my older friends didn't know. So I'm gonna do that. I say older friends, but I mean like more senior people that have been in the industry for a little while. It's not a well-known thing. So I'm going to do that one for tomorrow. I have my next Rust one recorded. It's half edited. It's coming out next week as well, which will actually be the final Rust video in it'll be the final Rust video in the beginner series. And then from there on, I'm going to start doing more advanced topics and like probably a little mini series. I think I'm going to try the mini series to do it in two ways. Basically, one long video that's like an hour and a half, 2 hours long, and then release those in short segments that are like 20 minutes long for the people that don't want one really long video. I think that's how I'm going to do it. Um, so So yeah, we're gonna start. I guess give it another minute. We're gonna start in about a minute. We'll go over the news. We have only one thing in security. Pretty simple. Security topic. I didn't see anything big. If you did see something big and I'm missing it, leave a link. I'm trying to limit it not to every CVE, but the ones I think will affect the community the most. Which this one really doesn't even affect the community. More of just an interesting topic in the area of security. Um, like I said, if you guys have a little thing that you see on stream that we're doing or just think would be good to spread the word, I've been doing this Mighty Mini Monday thing and people seem to really be liking it. So I'm going to be keeping it up. This week's is going to be really simple. I wasn't even going to do it each week, but people seem to be really liking it and they're not the hardest videos. They take a couple hours to produce. So I'm going to keep doing it. I have my next Rust video almost produced, so it's not going to release Monday because my Mighty Mini Monday is going to go out on Monday. But my next Rust video will come out probably Wednesday then, just to space it out some. And that's the last Rust video in my series, for my beginning series. I'm going to do other Rust videos, don't worry, but those are going to be like little mini series. So how I think I'm going to do it is I'm going to do three, like I'm going to do threading. Threading's going to be one of them. But it's going to be like a 2-hour video. I'm going to release that. And then I'm going to, over the next month, release 20-minute chunks that are on specific topics. I'm going to see how people like that. I'm going to see how people like that. The alleged Twitter renaming, I can talk about it. I don't think it's alleged. I mean, he's always said that he wants the everything app, right? So is it alleged? I feel like that's just what they're going to go with. I have pulled up an article though. We'll talk about it. Now, there was an article that something about the pragmatic programmer article I that we were going to cover this week. I'm not sure that I have that. If somebody wants to send it to me, it's alleged until it happens. I guess you're correct. I guess I was saying I'm not super this isn't super striking to me because I feel like the Musk has been saying that for a while, but although I guess he did say something, if there was a good enough X logo, he'll make it go live tomorrow. That's the worst product manager for an engineer. I'll let you know tonight if tomorrow we have a new priority. That sucks. That sucks. Not even gonna lie. Principal Engineer's Handbook. Thank you. All right, so we'll go over the Principal Engineer's Handbook. Obviously, I haven't read it. Didn't even know where it was. Sounds interesting though. Cool, 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 cool. Awesome. Dude, that's not actually a lie. The amount of problems when changing domains, like the amount of things that you have to think through, is staggering. From CORS issues to just redirects for like login redirects for your auth to it is a staggering amount of things that have to go into changing your it is not a quick or easy thing. All right. So we are going to, this week was really light. This week was really light. So we're going to go ahead and jump into it. I did not see a bunch of stuff happening in the clouds, in just general news. There was some stuff around AI, but even nothing like groundbreaking around AI. Let me actually pull up one article that I wanted to show people off the Perplexity Labs if they wanted to play around with it. I forgot about that. There just wasn't a whole lot going on. So let's jump into it, and then we'll jump into the news article. All right. So the first thing, and the only thing in the security was Google says Apple employee found a 0-day but did not report it. Now I looked around to this, and there's several other articles. This one actually sums it up really nicely. So I'm going with this article. I generally try to find the one with the least ads to show you guys. I like showing the articles and just instead of just saying it, because I know you guys probably aren't reading it along, but like maybe some of you do, and then it's also just not my face on screen. Anyways, so basically what happened was that in a capture the flag, an Apple employee found a proof of concept. Well, they didn't find a proof of concept. They had an idea. And basically, they went to work on writing a proof of concept and writing up the issue so that it could be fixed. But it was submitted by a person who was not the Apple employee because the Apple employee hadn't actually submitted it yet. Now, I don't know where I stand on this. I think that I understand both sides. So basically, the one person was like, we should report this zero. It was a 0-day, an unknown exploit. We should report it right away. Whereas the Apple employee said, well, I have to get permission and I have to share the proof of concept that they were writing. And they wanted to write a proof of concept with how it needed to be fixed. So basically this came down to, I hate it when people log into GitHub and they're like, yo, fix this bug. and they have 0 steps to reproduce. They have 0 things to do it. So I don't know where I stand on this because it is a security issue. Should you report it sooner than actually making a good report on how to reproduce it? I think I probably stand on the side of Google and say they should have reported it before having the perfect perfect exploit, proof of concept exploit. But I also appreciate and can appreciate the work that would go into building a good proof of concept. Now, the person said that it was also like a very situational exploit. Russell, I think that's what I would have done. I would have reported it and said, I'm working on a proof of concept. I'll be back in 2 weeks. Like, I think that's the reasonable thing to do here. But I did want to point out that like the Apple employee has come out and said that that's what they were working on. I think maybe that was their mistake. Should have reported it, and then they can, do their proof of concept. Well, and funny enough, the person who reported it, not the person who found the bug, but the person who reported it, got the $10,000. So, yeah, Google decided to award $10,000 as a bug bounty to the person who reported it, who again is not the one who found it. So that kind of sucks. Not going to lie. Maybe they should have done like 5,000 to each. I don't know. But that was the only thing I found in security. Did you guys find anything else? I do really appreciate, especially for... Oh, the rules, I get it. I get the rules. So, I mean, yeah, I guess rules are clearly posted, so that's fair that person gets it. And also, to be clear, the person who reported it told them in their report that they were not the person who found it. So it's not like the person tried to report it. They said, hey, look, I couldn't find it, but I wanted to make sure that this was reported. I'm not the person who reported, this person is. So they also weren't trying to steal it, just in case people were thinking that. Now, I wasn't able to find this for you guys last week, but before we get into cloud news, I wanted to go over this. I had the SUSE response, but I didn't have the Oracle response. This is Oracle's open source and free. We can't afford not to. This is Oracle's charge against Red Hats. I have not seen a rebuttal from Red Hat since this. This is the only this is the only rebuttal that I found. But I did also find this. This is what I'm finding a little bit interesting here, is that here CentOS Linux is going end of life. For almost 20 years, CentOS Linux has been, for many choices, the choice for server workloads. However, that's about to change with CentOS Linux 7. The last live version of the community enterprise open operating system is going end of life. So they're end of lifing the all CentOS 7 stuff, and this was the only reaction. Now, again, unfortunately, I have seen some of the stuff that Red Hat has been sent. This isn't the right way. This isn't the right way to deal with this. It's pretty appalling. I'm not defending them, but be the bigger person, always. Finding someone finding bugs in Chrome that works at Apple probably aren't poor. Dude, you know how expensive it is to live there? Yeah, would people like a video on like the enterprise the enterprise Linux system? So like right now I'm on Arch. Arch is not an enterprise Linux system. I have enjoyed Arch so far, but again, it's not an enterprise. There's reasons it's not an enterprise. Would people like a overview of the open source enterprise Linux systems out there that are open source? You know, we can go from like the pure Debian. Debian, I think, is okay to run in enterprise. It has its quirks, but I think you can run Debian just straight in enterprise. To Ubuntu. Ubuntu is nice because you don't have to pay for support, but if you wanted to get it, it's nice that you can get it. Maybe I'll make a video on that. Maybe I'll make a video on that if people would like that. Debian is great. Debian is really underrated, I think, in this server world. I think it really is. Ubu Debian. I mean, Ubuntu is a I'm not gonna say polished Debian, but Ubuntu not server is effectively a really nice user interface that just works over top of Debian. I think that Debian suffers slightly in the desktop era. In the desktop, again for server, I think it really shines well. Um, Ubuntu to me is like some value add if you want it, like snaps. Oh, those snaps also work on Debian, but it's natively there. I don't personally like snaps, but if you did, yeah. I know Ubuntu is a repackaged Debian, 100%. It is literally, I mean, it's not binary compatible. It's not bug for bug. They do their own stuff on top of Debian, but they do a lot on the on Debian and stand on their shoulders. They also give a lot back to Debian, although they are still in their own hot water over the Linux containers. Oh. All right. Let's jump into the cloud news. If anybody doesn't have anything else in this, I think I will honestly do a overview of enterprise Linux, open source Linux. It will cover Alma and Rocky because they're still open source. But I'll give the options out there just in case people are looking for them. It won't be a video on desktop because I really think desktop is kind of what you like. I feel like, honestly, you could do Debian, which I don't think is a great desktop, and be happy with it if it has the 3 tools that you need or the 12 tools that you need. Like, if it has what you need, I mean, it's great. Just use that. It doesn't matter. So I think desktop is a little bit different than server. Anyways, let's go into this. Introducing application integration. Connect your applications visually without code. Now, I have likes to this and I have dislikes. We'll get into it, but I think it's pretty cool. So basically, this allows you to will you include Amazon Linux and Microsoft's? Absolutely. So let me think about Microsoft's. I don't know that I know enough about Microsoft's to talk about it. And this is my opinion. My opinion's easy on Amazon Linux. If you are an Amazon person, if your cloud is Amazon and that's it, I would just use Amazon Linux. It runs great on their machines. And you know, it kind of just works. It has the right drivers for their machines. It has the right things. It just works. And if you're not doing a high performant thing, it probably doesn't matter. If you're trying to leverage their drives the best that you can, then it does really well. If you're not running in Amazon Cloud, I don't see why I would use it. It doesn't have any real benefit. So I will study up on Microsoft's version. I forget. I don't know what it's called. I don't know that much about it. I will try to let people know if I'm talking about one that I don't have a ton of experience about. Um, that is an option. I'm assuming it's similar to Amazon's Linux, though. If you're running in just Azure, it might be the right choice. Introducing application integrate. Okay, so this is kind of cool. Basically, it gives you this visual triggers and transformations that allows you to connect different applications. Now, the thing that I don't like about this is is it sells you on GCP only. I wish that this was like an open source solution that they came out with. This is everything that I want like the Null Cloud to be. The other two things. This sells you on their thing. The other thing is I'd like it to be I love UIs, but I want that UI to go to a configuration file that's stored in Git or something like that, so that you can still do Git ops or whatnot with it, and you don't have to use the UI. The worst part about this is there's no way to script it. There's no way to manually do it. You can only do it with the UI, which I think is like the worst part about it. Dark Hamaj. I use Arch too. It's not just look at this. Let's see. Check this out. I get this little nice Arch icon up there. That proves it. I use Arch. I think it's great. I think Arch is a great desktop. I just don't think it's a great server. Bite me. I will never claim Arch. I don't think the Arch people use Arch as a server. Okay, maybe they do. Maybe they do, but I just don't think it's a great server. It's not designed to be a server. Not saying you couldn't make a server distro out of the base where it's not the bleeding edge. You could. You absolutely could. But Arch as it is not designed to be a server. It's meant not something that you support long term. It's a little too easy to break. All right. Anyways, so this is really cool. I like it, but I do think that it needs API as well as like GitOps style management of it. But if you are trying to tie together homegrown and third-party APIs into some of your other API, this is like a service mesh for external stuff, which is pretty cool, honestly. And they have 75 plus pre-built connectors for connecting to different things. Now, a lot of these pre-built connectors are for things that are inside Google Cloud Services, so it's not like external things. This is like connecting to CloudSpan or BigQuery, whatnot. But they have connectors for other things like Active Directory, Apache Cassandra, Cockroach. So it's still. I think this is where it would shine a lot. Is like you want to have a Twilio integration or a Stripe integration that you can use with that, like to make callbacks, webhooks really easy. I think that's where it could really shine. Yeah. As for that, they didn't have anything else. The person that writes this portion of it, that summarizes it, that we usually go over, didn't leave us anything. So I was left to my own devices, and that's all I really found for GCP. Did you guys find anything else in GCP interesting? If not, we can jump over to Azure. Azure also didn't have anything really terribly that interesting. The only things that I really found was support for Python 3.11 in Azure Functions. I'm not sure if people use Python in Azure Functions, but if any of you do, it's out there. The bring your own key on ephemeral OS disk for AKS. I think this is actually probably pretty big. The AKS now supports the ability to create clusters with bring your own key enabled for nodes using ephemeral OS disk, if the chosen SKU supports ephemeral disks. So Rawcode's Academy site is now on. Oh, cool. He needs to switch. That's pretty awesome. So this actually brings the ability to bring your own customer managed keys. So this actually brings a lot. So there's a lot of times, especially if you're like a database vendor, where somebody wants to have their own keys, and this brings that support to it. So this is actually kind of a big deal. It's been on my radar for a little while for Azure. And I think that this is pretty good. It's in preview, so it's not actually out fully yet, but I feel like this should be out this year. Hopefully. Hopefully. Did I just Oh, Russell, you're pretty good. I was going to say he really should be out, but you know what? Until there's more there, that's not even a funny joke. I did stop myself. I did. Here soon, I'll win over raw code. I'll win over raw code. I also try, like, I like to joke around, but I also try not to abuse a joke. So I started to, and then I was like, you know what? I've said that too many times. We're having fun with the null cloud, but I've made the joke too many times. Oh, he does love Terraform. That's the worst. Terraform's the worst. Oh, I forgot that. Azure Machine Learning public preview for July. So they are bringing out some machine learning stuff. So they actually have some stuff that's going in general availability. So you can check that out. But they also have some stuff that's going into public preview, which was the maybe a little bit more interesting stuff. Which this prompt flow looked kind of interesting. You can now utilize one platform to build, tune, evaluate. This is basically Kubeflow inside of Azure Machine Learning. It's not actually Kubeflow, but it's the same type of thing that works on. And so I found that interesting. And then this other one down here, leverage Llama foundation models from the model catalog. So this is really cool. They actually imported the Llama foundation models, so you can now fine tune and deploy Llama models from Meta inside of Azure. So Azure Machine Learning is like bringing in they're more like vendoring everybody else than actually building their own. So now you can do OpenAI, you can do Llama, you can do it's kind of a cool strategy. I'm not actually upset about it. But yeah. So as far as the stuff moving to GA, this really was just use compute in multiple regions for their Azure AI machine learning. So it wasn't that interesting. Oh, did I miss that? I missed that. Did Meta stay? Let me see that. Ah, you're right. You're right. Cool. So, as I have said, always bring in your own things or call me out if I missed it, because I only saw this from Azure's point of view. There's only so many things I can keep track of in a week. I also work a full-time job. So Meta and Microsoft introduced. You know what? I would have put this in the machine learning. I'm going to put this in the machine learning. Stop calling me out early. We're in the cloud news section, not the machine learning section. We're moving on to AWS. That was it. But I think it's an interesting strategy for Microsoft. We'll talk about it in the machine learning. Amazon Route 53 Resolver now available in AWS Outpost racks. So if you're using Outpost and want to use Route 53, you used to not be able to, or you'd have to do your own kind of thing, which was kind of a pain. So I think this is a pretty big deal, especially because if you're a pure AWS shop, this means that you don't have to do any funny workarounds or use a different provider. AWS week in review. So I found a couple things here that I had missed, especially around Carpenter. I know that we're big on Kubernetes in this ecosystem. So EKS, CTL, and Carpenter, I found a couple things in here that I had missed. So let's go jump to those. So if you guys don't know what Carpenter is a way, it helps scale EKS clusters. So if you're trying to do scaling on EKS, Carpenter is out there. Now it is a open source project from AWS, so you can actually get the code. But it now supports Windows containers on EKS as well. So Russell, we already changed. We already talked about Microsoft changing the name of Azure Active Directory last week. In fact, remember we said that the breach was so bad, their failure was so bad, they let the State Department get hacked. They had to change their name. Do you not remember that? 100%. We talked about Azure Active Directory getting changed. 100%. Um, you, you'll notice that there was even the joke. I forget, it was in the memes on the thing. I believe Nighthound said something about. I believe Nighthound said something about it. I'll bring it up again then. Let's talk about it. Yeah, Active Directory did change. Azure Active Directory did change its name. Absolutely. All right. So, Carpenter now supports Windows containers. So you can horizontally scale Windows containers with Carpenter. So if that's you, it's not a lot of people, I don't think, but I mean, maybe it's more than I think. So Weaveworks made this tool called EKSCTL because Amazon's own tools were horrendous. So this is kind of cool. Now the EKSCTL open source project has been moved from the Weaveworks GitHub organization to a new top-level GitHub organization, EKSCTL.io, that will jointly be maintained by AWS and Weaveworks. So AWS, in their own documentation, has always pointed to use Weaveworks. And I love that. I don't have any information from Weavework, but I hope that this is a good move from them, that where AWS is actually stepping in. It makes it look like AWS is actually stepping in to help with the tool. Because if you tried to use EKSCTL if you've tried to use EKSCTL, it is the only real way to manage AWS clusters. Their own tool is horrendous. Their own command line, the AWS command line, is no good. So this is really good to see that joint effort, and I'm happy to see this. I'm happy to see these two things. So yeah. Let me pull it up really quickly so you don't have to take my word for it. But Azure Active Directory did get renamed. Now you can go back and watch last week because we had some good fun with it. It's called Entra. Yeah, here we go. Amazon Active Directory AD is now called wait, this is not the this is not the page. This is 1 second. I'm looking for it. It's called Entra AD, I believe. Yeah. So it's getting moved to this. Microsoft Azure Active Directory, Azure AD, is being renamed to Microsoft Entra ID. So if you didn't know, that was happening. That is happening. Now, I have no idea if it was in relation to the breach or not. That was our joke, that the failure was so bad, that the publicity for Azure Active Directory was so bad that they just had to rename it. But I won't rehash those jokes. Did anybody else see anything interesting that we should talk about? If not, we'll talk about some AI news. Now, there wasn't a ton, but there is some things coming out in AI. Now, I actually like to focus on things that aren't large language models because that seems to be about the only thing that's actually having any type of focus these days. And the fact is, I didn't find anything other than large language models, but there are some interesting things that we can talk about. The first one here is Meta and Microsoft introduced the next generation of Llama. And I guess that they are actually making a partnership. Now, I think that this is really cool because we've seen Azure. It's an interesting take that Azure has taken. Azure has gotten exclusivity on OpenAI. It's gotten now Llama. I don't know that it has exclusivity on Llama because supposedly Llama is open source, even though it's kind of difficult to find and use. But they are providing this stuff through their own platform, but not actually doing it themselves. So this is a little differently than GCP and others are doing it. So GCP and Azure are actually working on their own. There is actually a rumor, it's an unverified rumor though, so I didn't actually report it, that Apple is about to release their own version of ChatGPT. Maybe I should show it anyways. I couldn't find any validation from Apple themselves that they were working on it, but that is the rumor. That's the leak that's going on. But I think this is an interesting stance. You know what? I don't know that much about Azure Cosmos, so it's news to me too. Their Postgres offering was just a wrapper around Citrus. Huh. Cool. Now, that being said, there's this project, Lamini, which is promising to be the GPT for developers. So you want to develop something in GPT-3 to ChatGPT, so GPT 3.5. This is supposed to help you create your own models with your own data. Now, it's not free. You have to go get a key and buy things, but if you were looking to do it, Lamini seems like it's supposed to just be the easy way to build and serve a custom AI, which seems pretty cool because like right now you can use ChatGPT and either 3.5 Turbo or 4.0, and you kind of get what they're giving you, and there's a little bit you can do with your prompt engineering, but that's about it. This is trying to make it so that you can train it on your documentation, your help desk, your help notes, and things like that, or as a chatbot for your own specific needs. So that's actually really cool that it's coming out as like a way to fine tune those things. So they have their things, and it seems pretty easy. Like this is training your own model right here with your own stuff. Like they just pass some data like this. Looked fairly easy. I thought it was interesting, so I'm gonna post this link. It IGPT. I like IGPT. Hopefully it's not Siri. I hate the name Siri. I hate names. I really do. I wish they wouldn't name them names. Another one that was shown to me this week, I hadn't seen this. This was in Asked Our thing. Perplexity Labs is hosting Llama Chat as well, so you can go here and ask Llama things. They also have different parameters. Now, I'm going to warn you, do not ask the 70 billion chat a coding problem. Don't do it. It will not respond. I tried many times to get it to respond, and it didn't work. It didn't work. But it's out there. Now, Stability AI introduced Free Willy 1 and Free Willy 2, the sequel. New open access large language model. Open access isn't the exact same thing as open source, just to be warned. But they're opening these up. So Stability AI is opening up these two to do it. Now, the Free Willy 1 and 2 are built on top of Llama, I believe. And they're supposed to be on par with GPT 3.5 Turbo. So if you want to go check those out, go ahead and do it. How hard is it to train to classify? I don't know. I don't know, Russell. I have never actually done that. Should we do that on a stream? I'm booked for this week or this month, but maybe in a month or two. After my AI video is done, I'm happy to do that. I don't know how difficult that would be. The Lamini seems really, really easy. If you look over it, um, basically you can. Here, I'll show you my screen. Basically, like it just in Python, you do this. Um, and you give it links to like where it is, to build the idea from it. Um, and it helps you train a question answer model out of it. I haven't tried it. Like I said, it seemed really easy. Yeah. All right. The question everybody is wondering: did a good enough X logo get posted? I don't think so. I think he's saying no, that there isn't a good enough X logo because it's not X. Bummer. Bummer. Let's go over the Principal Engineer's Handbook. I really don't have that much else. I didn't find that much else during this week. Now, I warn you, this week was a birthday week. We had two birthdays, mine and my daughter's. So it was a little bit crazy. It was a little bit crazy. So maybe I missed some things that did happen. For that, I'm sorry if that happened. But X.com redirects to Twitter. What I really want to know is how much did he pay for X.com? That's what I want to know. That is what I want to know. How much did he pay for X.com? Yeah, I would guess that it was in the millions, maybe tens of millions. Was there anything else that I missed before we jump into this? Well, I wanted Null Cloud to debut next weekend, but I don't think it's going to be there. Now, obviously, I can just decide, but I want it to debut with usability. And I don't think it's going to be usable, really usable. Like we have a couple things. The UI is non-reactive. You click a button and whether it's working on it or not isn't showing. So that's one thing that I need to work on. Blame it on the logo. Oh, I like how you think. I like how you think. Uh, so that's one thing. The UI needs to be more reactive, which I don't know that I'm going to be able to clean up by next weekend. Um, the backend API is really really rough right now. Like not usable fully from the front end just because of how it's rough. That's what I was going to focus this week on, and I was going to be able to clean that up. I can do one or the other basically. So I think it's going to be delayed by at least 2 weeks before we actually get to see people log in and use it, which is sad. But like again, I could I could debut it next weekend, but people wouldn't know if when they clicked if it was actually working and things like that. So there's a little bit more work. The other thing that I haven't gotten done is the ability for people to monitor their workloads and delete them. So that's a little bit more work. Again, I might be able to get that this weekend, or this week and the weekend. But like I said, there's a little bit more. And like I said, I could release it, but I think I think I would prefer just 2 more weeks and release something I'm a little more proud of. Not that I'm not proud of what I have, just it kind of sucks to use if I'm honest. It's out there, you can see it. I keep it deployed. I have nothing to hide. It's all open source. It sucks. Um, I'm just not going to. The other thing that I have to do is I have been working on an introduction video, and I need a little bit more time on the introduction video too. So 2 more weeks. Releasing early fall. I mean, middle of August isn't fall. And releasing, like, I'm calling it a pre-alpha. It's a pre-alpha. Oh, you guys call it autumn. Interesting. Interesting. We do call it fall. I didn't realize that was Americanizing it, but I wouldn't know. I mean, autumn is a word that we use. We just don't use it often. We say fall. For sure. All right. The Principal's Engineer's Handbook. Leadership and management are often conflated, but they are distinct and complementary skills. Yeah, okay, so August is, like I said, what August isn't a. August is like a really nice proof of concept, or hopefully a nice proof of concept. If you're talking about where there's actually the full microservice support, that's like January 1st. Like that's winter, releasing winter. And I wouldn't even say fools like that. I would love to be able to host the Twitch alerts on the Null Cloud mid to late winter. That's my goal. Where it can do that and it can take those microservices and kind of distribute them. I think that would be really cool. But we'll see. We'll see. All right. Now, in this article, it has a really. This is something I have said about Stack Overflow for the longest of times. Just because somebody is technical doesn't mean they're a good moderator. But Stack Overflow tied technical ability with moderation abilities, which shouldn't have been the case. There should have been 2 point standards. People should have gotten points for helping people, and that allows them to moderate. And then people should have gotten points for technical, which allows them to critique technical ability. And just because a thing worked, how to print a string in Python, shouldn't give you technical points. Those should just be like, this is the most helpful answer. That shouldn't have anything to do with how many points you got. I have said this from the very start because those things are vastly different, and one of the reasons Stack Overflow has a problem. So I am in full agreement with leadership and management are often conflated, but are distinct. And I would say leadership, management, and technical ability are often conflated, but they are distinct and complementary skills. As a principal engineer, chances are you have experience with both, but your focus is now less on building the organization, planning resources, managing expectations, and instead on improving technical aiming and execution across the organization, helping teams navigate through complex technical, product, and organizational trade-offs, mandating and resolving escalations, and driving technology and processing improvement. I would add to this, not that this isn't already large, but as a principal engineer, I'm going to expect you to as a principal engineer, I'm going to expect you to lay down the framework for how we mentor people within the company. So basically, I'm huge on mentorship, and I would expect, the principal engineers to mentor the staff engineers, to mentor the senior engineers, to mentor the, junior engineers. Like, I would expect that to be being driven by you. The role of most director and VP managers requires that they balance their time across a wide range of teams and incentives, which gives them breadth but limits their bandwidth and ability to go deep. Yes, unfortunately or fortunately, they're very much around making sure that the teams have the right priorities and have the resources and abilities to do those priorities. That's what they should be looking for. They may not have the time to do a thorough review of the proposed architecture, a deep dive into a tech. Now, while I will agree that they may not have the time to do a thorough review of a proposed architecture, it does not mean that they can't or shouldn't have the ability to. I don't like it when VPs or directors of the engineering teams don't have the ability to. I think that's pretty bad. They should have ability to meet with their principal engineers and have a thorough review, and dive deeply if they need to. Okay, sorry. If they do not have the time to do a thorough review of the proposed architecture, and this is where you, as a director or VP, then rely on your principal engineers to do it, or architects, whatever you want to call them. I also don't believe in architects that I believe in principal engineers, not architects, in theory. I don't know if that distinction makes sense. Architects are usually these people that make pretty pictures. I don't like pretty pictures. That's yeah. They may not have the time to go. I'm sorry, English just failed me. They may not have the time to do a thorough review of the proposed architecture, a dig deep into technical or cross-team product trade-offs. Objective. Cross-team product trade-offs. They probably better should. I'm sorry. I think that's where a director comes in hard. Not a principal engineer, but we'll talk about it. Objectively mediate a gnarly cross-team escalation. Again, this is where a director. What is the director doing if they're not doing this? If the director plus managers are by necessary wide and shallow, principal engineers are focused and deep. Yes, I agree with that. But I don't agree with this. This is where the director and the people and the managers should be dealing with this. We'll continue. If the director plus managers are by necessary wide and shallow, principal engineers are focused and deep. Agreed. A close partnership across these complementary roles is a key building block for an organization's success. I agree. Basically, the principal engineers, your engineering leaders, should work closely with the directors and managers. Generally, they report. I've seen this a little bit differently. Sometimes principal engineers report to VPs. Sometimes they report to the director. I think it's fine either way, and it sometimes depends on the engineer. So you don't like the directors of probably 50% of tech companies? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If you're a director in an engineering org, you better be able to hold. And you know what? I think this is fair. That because I've been a director for 2 years, I'm probably not on point with my engineering ability nearly as well as some other people are, just because I do have some breadth, but I have some other knowledge now that I've gained. Some people management, but also these cross-team product trade-offs are a huge deal and a thing that directors have to work on. But having the technical ability to understand those are vastly important. Now, you can say that, well, you can be a director that relies purely on their principal engineers, but that's not really your job to just rely purely on what they say, because if all you're doing is relying on what they say, then it's impossible for you to comprehend and understand it and make the right choice. Because as a director, VP, you have to make that final call. You have to make that choice. And if you don't have some good knowledge, then there's no way for you to take what your principal engineer is saying, take what your management team is saying, and marry the best product. I think that's garbage. Now, I'm not saying because you made principal engineer, you make a good director. That's not what I'm saying. Because I do think the two purviews are vastly different. You have directors who need to be wide. They need to be seeing the big picture of the teams that they manage and saying, hey, this team, we're going to have to make this trade-off on this team. And they need to be able to explain that to the teams, be open with them, the teams and the engineering managers there, and explain to them why they have to make that trade-off, and why it's the best thing for all the teams. But I can't do that if I wasn't technical at some level. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I've had non-technical directors before then. I don't generally like that. What does a principal engineer do? The role is a combination of self-directed search and hands-on problem solving of topics that are bubbling up from within the organization or are delegated to you by the executive team. For example, your time may be spent on self-directed reviews of document design of design documents and code, engaging with other managers and leaders to help navigate trade-offs, or leading a deep dive evaluation of a proposal or product at the request of a director or VP. You are their trusted technical co-processor. Let me reread this. What does a principal engineer do? The role is a combination of self-directed search and hands-on problem solving of topics that are bubbling up from the organization level or are delegated to you by an executive team. I like principal engineers to have 25% of their time to look into things that they find important. I think like there should be things like, hey, come help me look into this, or things like that. I need you to read up on this or understand this thing before the team does it, or things like that. Also, I think that they're really good at making crappy prototypes, but anything that they make as a crappy prototype should be completely thrown away, because they're doing it quickly. I think that principal engineers should be coding still, because that's how they stay fresh. They shouldn't be completely removed from coding. I love principal engineers doing code reviews. They're supposed to be your technical leadership, which means they can help people learn. Code reviews is about having quality code and learning. And learning. People forget that. They're all like, oh, code reviews for code quality. No, screw that. That's the best time to help people learn. Oh my gosh. All right. I'm sorry. I'm getting a little ranty on this. Let's move on. For example, your time may be spent on self-directed reviews of design documents and code. Absolutely. Engaging with other managers and leaders to help navigate trade-offs. Yep. Or leading a deep dive evaluation of a proposal or product with at the request of a director. Yes, this is where this is kind of what I was saying with make the proof of concepts or some of those types of things. I don't want to see pretty pictures that you hand to a team. A proof of concept with code that you hand off to a team, it speaks way more to that technical team than a pretty picture. Also, I have never seen a pretty picture from architects that go to production as the pretty picture, because pretty pictures are just that, and they never work out exactly how they are. Not that there's not value in having some guiding ideas and guiding design documents. That's fine. I just don't need an architect to tell me that. Self-directed search relies on deep expertise, one hard-won wisdom, and good judgment. You need to invest in open-ended exploration, reading design docs, code reviews, etc., and apply active pattern matching. Apply active pattern matching? What does that even mean? For example, identifying challenges, surfing across projects, or teams. Okay. I guess they're saying see bigger pattern matching between different teams. Now, I think that there's different levels of principal engineer, and maybe this is staff engineer versus. Okay, I'll get this. The principal engineer works at a cross team, where staff engineer is kind of your engineering leadership in a team. This is like the engineering leadership in a single team. I guess I would go with that. 100%. I'm sorry if I was making that unclear. I guess when I said proof of concept, I think so for me, I will ask a hey, can we do this to a a principal engineer? And if they make a proof of concept, they're not designing the product, they're proving that it works. And that's where I said it should be 100% throwaway code. Yeah. So I agree with you. Even when I ask for that, that's not me having them design it for the team. That is me saying that, hey, I want to know that this works, and can you do it quickly? Yeah. So no, it's a good clarification. I think it's an important clarification. You need your teams to own it, and this is another problem I have with the classic architect is the classic architect owns nothing and dictates everything. And so the team can sometimes be stuck with a crappy solution that they don't like and didn't approve themselves just because that's what a architect pushed on them, which is horrible, and it just never works well. So I agree with you, Russell. I agree. Self-directed search we already were on this. To be successful, you need to exercise good judgment. What is worth? I think so. Yeah, I think challenge. This is actually a really underrated skill. Identifying challenges that are happening in more than one team. So a lot of times, a principal engineer is going to identify something a single team is struggling with, not necessarily across multiple teams. Now, I also think that this is partially what this is where I think a director should also be able to do this. A director is supposed to be wide, and this is wide. Identifying challenges surfing across projects or teams is wide. I don't think I agree with this. I actually think that this is where a technical director should be identifying those things, because they should be working with multiple teams. They should have the wide vision. If you have a narrow vision, you're working on these things, improving these aspects, checking for this type of things, I don't think you'll be able to see this. And I think this goes against what they were saying up here with they should have more direct narrow. Now, I don't think that they shouldn't have a hand in it. Again, for example, I could say I think our Go containers across all our teams are have bad security practices. Now, I could then ask for a principal engineer to look into it, but that's a narrow focus. It is the Go containers across multiple teams. But that's me identifying it as a director, a technical director, across many. And I don't know. Maybe I would make a better principal engineer than I would a director. But yeah. Observing is not enough, however. To be successful, you need to exercise good judgment. Always, you have to have good judgment. What is worth flagging or escalating now or later? So I don't. This now or later is an interesting one. And with whom? Well, with your manager. You should address it with, if you're a principal engineer, you should address it to the director. If you have a director of the teams, you should have a good working relationship. If you see something, you should address it to them and ask and get alignment with what the plan is. And you have good organizational awareness to effectively engage, influence, and affect change. Often you are the connective tissue connecting individuals and teams, manufacturing serendipity to manufacturing serendipity to open up collaborations and quietly supporting and cheering from the back. Yeah. Weird way of saying this, but to open up collaboration is a huge goal. You should always be collaborating with the teams. It's not you coming in to the team and pushing your will. It's there to you as a principal engineer is to collaborate with them to come up with the best solution for them. Our architects and directors were on call fourth line support. If no one else can fix it, fourth line is the last line before the CEO has to make phone calls. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. This is what I'm saying. I'm on call too, because I, I have two guiding principles that say I have to be on call. One, if me and my technical engineering team can't handle it, then nobody else can. It should be. That should be the case. If somebody else in the team can handle it, and me and my, if I can't do it, I actually put myself there. If I can't do it, I shouldn't be being the director. Period. That doesn't mean that I have the knowledge in every single thing, because I don't anymore, unfortunately. But I have a pretty good understanding throughout a lot of teams. But if me and my my technical leadership team can't fix it, then nobody can. That's a guarantee I'll give you. If we can't fix it, nobody can, because it's our product. I'm sorry, like that's the thing. Also, another guiding principle: we're actually tier 3 with the engineers, because I don't believe in asking people to do things I wouldn't do myself. So if I'm going to ask my engineers to be on call on tier 3, I will go there with them. And it's good practice. It's good practice for your technical engineers to serve a rotation anyways. And the reason is being on call is fantastic. It's not fantastic, but it's a fantastic learning experience. Those things that happen in production, those things that happen, you learn from them. And if you get rusty at that skill, you get rusty at the skill, and it's not a good skill to be rusty at. So I have us all on third line. We're in there with the engineers. Now we actually serve third line half, because we have a lot more things on our plate, but we're also the fourth line. So we're kind of always somewhat on call if there's an emergency. But yeah, I don't ask people to do things I wouldn't do. We don't have fourth. I don't know that we've ever had something reach fourth, because generally we have somebody, but I could see what you're saying. We're also a much smaller team. I don't know how large it was. I'm not talking about a Microsoft size thing. My teams are small. So there's always one of the technical leaders on call with the other group. So generally it never reaches anything past. I don't know if that makes sense. Like one of the fourth 60 people, that's more than all my teams. That's all of Aerospike's engineering. Three small teams. So, like I said, larger I could see 100%. But I think, yeah, like I said, there's two principles that would, if you're gonna have your engineers be on call, you're at least fourth row on call. Which unfortunately is kind of all the time. How do you identify and prioritize opportunities to focus on? Oh man, this is a hard one. Actually, I think this gets harder as you go up. Junior engineer, senior engineer, even staff engineer, this is an easy problem. At least it appears easy to me at this point. When you're talking about principal engineer, when you're talking about director, those type of things, principal I think is actually still a little bit easier than director. Director, this is probably the biggest thing, is a lot of what you focus on is self-directed and what is the most important, but you have to define what's the most important and those types of things. And I think this is actually a really hard one. So yeah, I think as you move up, knowing how to identify and prioritize opportunities is like one of the big things. Yeah, I was gonna say I have worked with much smaller teams, so we're talking like 20 or 30 people. It's not a it yeah. And sadly, it does mean pretty much everyone's on call, which sucks. It just means that we have cells that we rotate who's on call. And in each one of them, we have an engineering leadership in that one. So that's why we're in tier 3 is because we don't have a tier 4 because we're already all there. So again, my experience is at the higher level is in much smaller companies at this point. Knowing where to spend your time is one of the hardest evergreen questions every principal engineer questions for every engineer. The opportunity space is vast. The terrain is changing constantly. Your superpower is the ability to engage deeply, which requires staying flexible and continuously recalibrating where and how your attention is spent. Be thoughtful about your role and working on engagement, how to extract yourself, and be thoughtful on what you commit to. Ooh, this is a good point. Know when to extract yourself and be thoughtful of what you commit to. I love that idea, Russell. I love that idea. I do really like that. And the thing is, uh, he brought up here like when to what is worth flagging or escalating now or later with whom. So what I was going to say is you should always bring everything up now. That doesn't mean that we fix everything now, but if you see a problem, it should be brought up. And I hate it when people just shove it into a backlog because it means nothing ever gets done. So what I like our engineering leadership to do is basically we have a high level concern board. It's not a board that you do work on. It's not a board that it is a board with like our highest level concerns, and we always have 20. We never have more than 20. If there's another one that goes on it, we have to either fix one of the other concerns or we have to remove it as a high level concern because we just don't have the time or we'll never get to it if it's not on that high level concerns. It gets moved to a low level concern, but the low level concerns is like, yeah, when we hire a whole lot more people. Um, your COO did too. That's awesome. That's awesome. I like that. Um, that's an organization I would love working in. I think. I think. All right. So I honestly think that you should always keep a bad list. It doesn't mean, and you should prioritize. It just doesn't mean like, yeah, you need to know when to start working on the things. Like, is it a security concern? How important it is. I think also this right here, know when to extract yourself and be thoughtful on what you commit to. This is really important, especially if you have a really good principal engineer or director. They're going to want to help, and sometimes this is something I've struggled with is like being like, no, I don't have the time. There's bigger problems for me to help with. You go, I have to trust my team. You go solve that, or whatnot. So yeah, owner, stakeholder, supporter, friend. No structural commitment. Volunteer. I would call this volunteer. Supporter, ad hoc, on-call engagement as necessary. Stakeholder, responsible for aiming within function or domain, and direct responsible. In practice, you can be effective owner on one or at most two incentives and consult as a stakeholder and supporter across a few. I think this depends on how big these incentives are, honestly. A smaller company, I feel like at a smaller company, you're going to be an owner on more smaller things, not an owner on big things, as many big things. But I think this could change depending on whether you were looking at a small company or a big company. I do think currently maybe all of engineering here is breaching 80, 90 people, maybe. And so like, yeah, yes, Russell, 100% agree. Delegating and like you hired good people, trust them. Just tell them what you need and trust them. Um, don't micromanage it. I'm not a micromanager, but I did find it hard when it was like, oh, I need this done, and so like I have an idea of what I think should be done because I personally need it done, but then I delegated it to somebody, and then like to then let go and be like, no, they're gonna find out a good solution. Just let it go. It was hard. It still is hard. It's still something that I am working on. Develop and invest in strong horizontal partnerships with other product and engineering managers. Um, I think honestly, this is your job as a director, uh, is to have these strong horizontal partnerships and working with them. Absolutely. Yeah. And as a principal engineer, I find principal engineers should help across. Even though, let's say they even report to me as a director, they should be helping my teams integrate with other people's teams as well. So they should have good partnerships. And there's some people that report to a VP, that are principal engineer. Again, it depends on what type of organization. I feel like I'm more of a principal engineer at a small company, but so I kind of play both. But I don't know. That sucks. What does success look like for a principal engineer? The tactics of your engagement style and definition of success depend on the organization and stakeholders you support. In some cases, the role may have a strong external component as a visible technical representative and partner with the external community or customers, and in others, it may be inward focused as a technical leader within a specific product or problem solving domain. Security. I haven't seen this strong external component. I know how large companies, at a small company, I don't see this strong external component. I see principal engineers helping with some of that. They don't have a strong lead in it. Like they're more of a stakeholder in some of those things. I haven't seen that, but I could see it as you get into a larger company. Um, principal engineers commonly leverage Principal engineers' common leverage point is in the friction areas and unrecognized opportunities across teams and products. Yep. Or yeah, it doesn't have to be across teams. It can be also in a team. Teams optimized for their local optima needs. Your job is to help guide and organize the organization towards a better global outcomes. All decisions at this level require trade-offs across teams and projects, execution speeds, business priorities. Your scope spans team, and your leverage is okay. What does this look for? What does success? This isn't doing anything about archetype. Facilitator, partner, and mentor. Okay. Often you are the most senior person in the room. Most of the time, this does not mean that you are the most knowledgeable person in the room of a specific problem domain. Agreed. Although your experience and broad expertise may give you perspective and insight that others don't have. It's not your job to solve the problems. Your job is to partner with technical leadership, what I would call staff engineers, and experts closest to the problem domain, and work together to identify the path to the best outcome. Chances are you're in the room because there are trade-offs or decisions to be made that span beyond the immediate team, and your job is to serve as an objective and impartial guide on the journey. The team should be on its own outcome and execution. Yeah. Okay, so this isn't really giving really good. This is like a problem I find with people's resumes. Don't give me general stuff. I need quantitative things. And this is actually something I brought up to the Terra AI. I think we focus too much on engineering productivity and not enough on engineering management productivity. And I don't think that we even have a good grasp on how to manage or measure or engineering management productivity, which is the worst part. So we'll look at like lines of code, which I think is bad to just look at, and I think like it can get you into a lot of trouble. But what I would like to see is engineering teams' productivity, teams as a whole, as a byproduct of engineering management. And what I mean by that is what I'd like to track is how productive are my teams with what I do. So basically, let's say that a team had 1,000, the whole team to combine had 1,000 lines of code committed per week on average. And I made a change and it became 1,200 lines of code. I want to know that. I want to know that me, as a person who facilitates engineering management, made a change that made it better. And again, I'm not saying lines of code is where it's at. I'm saying like we have no concept of what we do as engineering management if it makes it better, other than whether it feels good or not, which I think is horrifying. I don't know, Russell, if you have any idea on that either, or I don't even have good. I've read a lot of management books. I don't think they have a good understanding of it either. But that's what I would like to see. I would like to see the true emphasis on productivity on the engineering management. Now, to do that, you'd have to understand the team's productivity, but just as a whole. You're not looking at individual engineers, you're looking at the teams as a whole. Yeah. Which I don't know. Maybe lines of code combined with bugs and security vulnerabilities fixed. Maybe you could do that as a team as a whole. Maybe that would be fine. Yeah, maybe you could do like bugs, flow of tickets, how many blockers, and things like that. Because what I'd like to see, and I'm not saying it's an easy challenge though, I'm just saying like there's very little that I find here. There's very little that I've found to help me know quantitatively that I made things better. There is feelings like the engineers can feel like it's better. It doesn't mean that it necessarily is. I've not got to the list yet. Okay, sorry. Focus. How do you capture and improve your? Okay, so sorry. They said here, what does success look for? And then like they went through here. I apologize. I didn't realize that wasn't the list. My bad. How do you capture and improve your impact? The impact and contribution of a principal engineer typically spans across technical, product, and organizational domains. Unlike a manager role, which leans to direct organizational and team impact against organizational priorities, your success relies on successfully claiming shared credit across teams and incentives. Right, which I get with principal engineers and directors, it gets very difficult. Even engineering managers usually have a team and that they're looking to do and prove, and so this is where like and VPs, how do you prove? There isn't something. I get that there's not something you can score it out. There's not something you can score out of 10 for your engineers either. So I get that it's difficult. Establish clarity about the role up front. See rubric above. Yeah, this seemed pretty decent. With yourself and each team you engage with, doing so helps clarify your commitment and desired outcome. For example, if you're engaging as a consultant, ensure that others understand that and leverage your time and expertise in the appropriate format. Recognize that the definition of success may look different and feel different. Past career milestones usually come in the form of launches and landings in which you played a direct and critical role. Moving forward, success and leverage will often come through empowering and teaching others. Engaging, yes, through empowering and teaching others. That's what you should be doing. That's what like management should be doing. Empowering and teaching others. Engage, mediate, coach, and quietly recede without anyone noticing. Pave the paths with senior stakeholders to reduce or eliminate resource contention and cross-team dependencies, prune complex design trees by clarifying desired state and the principles of the overall system. No, I think if you do like the number of bugs, the number of regressions, those types of things are measurable. The number of, things marked as technical debt versus features are measurable. Although Although the size of those bugs, the size of the features, you can release 10 features last week and 1 feature this week just by the size of the features. So those aren't pure. But I honestly think if you take features and you have a team for a year and you start looking at it as the average of the year, I honestly think those things average out. I really do. From what I've seen, they kind of average out, and you can be like, on average, we do 5 features a week. That doesn't mean every week is a 5 feature week. Some are a 1 feature week, some are a 10 feature week. And it all depends on the feature and the week. Are people out on vacation? Lots of things. But I think you can start to get ideas. Tactical everyday tips and best practices. So they never actually gave us an actual list. They never did. Protect and leave large blocks of uninterrupted time on your calendar. The nature of the rule requires time flexibility, enabling you to jump on board. I don't know. I don't know that I agree with this. If you're saying that you're blocking out random, if you're saying 4 hours of every day you have blocked out, nobody's going to bother you. And that's good. But then also, if your job is to be bothered some, then you can't just block out all your time to not be bothered. Yes, you need some time to go out and do those investigations for your own time. 100% you should block some time. I don't think when they say large blocks of uninterrupted time, I'm thinking 4 hours every single day. That seems a bit extreme. But I guess like 2 days, 4 hours, 2 days a week sounds good though to me. You may not have worked in the environments where your calendar is booked for a meeting if there is free time. So I am really against meetings, and I push people to not go to a meeting, even if they're invited, if they don't have anything to offer to it. Don't go to a meeting if you don't need to be there. Meetings should be small. You get more than like 6 people, and it maybe 9 people, but 6 people maybe preferably. So I guess I've never struggled with it because I do push that. Now we have open meeting booking, so like people do book time, but you shouldn't go if you're not needed. But devs are notoriously bad at saying no to people. Okay, so I actually get on to my managers. That's who I push it through. If your devs are in meetings, tell them to say no. Or get on to the person inviting them to the meeting. I have been known to do that. Stop inviting them to meetings. I wanted their insight. No. They're going to sit there and do nothing. Ugh. I think it's easier because I work in a smaller thing. So, like, I know it's been hard. So I've had personally like VPs that make meetings where I've had to go and be like, don't invite these devs to meetings. Like, you don't need them there. If you can't define why you need them there, stop asking them. But I don't know. The problem with this, then nobody can ask them for their time because they look on their calendar and they are like, oh, they're in a meeting or they're busy, so I won't bother them. And so you just need to build a culture around being cognizant of not inviting people to meetings so that they don't have to do this, because I think this causes problems. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. No, nothing's solved in 5 minutes. If it's solvable in 5 minutes, it's solvable on Slack. That's what I say. If it's solvable in 10 minutes, it's solvable on Slack. You don't need a Google Meet with me. If you're Google Meeting, it's for a half hour at least. So I guess I don't know about how I feel about this. I generally don't like this. I feel like it causes more problems. But I guess if you have a company who's not going to be cognizant of meeting time and expense of that, then you should do it more. Um, but I think that sucks. Oh no, people can't exist in an ideal world. I agree. PM's just bending rules to get things escalated. Ooh, that rubs me a wrong way. I'd have words with a PM. A PM should be a team member. I personally believe that PM should be part of the engineering org and should report to the director. That's my personal feeling. Uh, 1 second. Let me rephrase that. If we're talking PMs, if we're talking about an engineering product, if you're talking about, I don't know, I haven't worked on something that's not an engineering product, like a database or Kubernetes as like I've always worked on stuff that are for developers. PMs should 100% be there. If you're talking about a product that's like a dating app, I don't know. Probably if it's a dating app, the PMs shouldn't. I don't even know. I still think they should report to the directors. Honestly, they should be all inside of the engineering department, um, because that shouldn't be happening. If that happens, free up all time. If not, then book slots for focus time. I think I agree with you. If you can't get people to be cognizant of that and they refuse to, then you have to block out spots. I agree. I agree. Um, Lead by example and model. I will have to think more about this because yeah, I really hate the just blocking out tons of time because I feel like then it makes things complicated. But I agree with you, and this is probably another bigger company problem. Um, but yeah, lead by example and model the behavior you want to see in your teams you engage with. 100%. This is true for every leadership technical, from my engineering managers to my principal engineers to my director to my VP to my CTO to my CEO. This should be what you do. Lead by example. 100%. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the junior engineer. You should lead by example. Or you should try to. Um, this is, yeah. Be deliberate about your exposure and role in day-to-day organizational information flow. I actually had this problem as my current role. I kind of grew from like principal engineer to director, and I actually grew from like lead developer to principal engineer to director, and I actually from lead engineer actually had code that I owned, and it was hard to like give that up. Like for the longest of time, even as director, I owned this piece of code, and it was really dumb of me. Like it was really stupid. It was a mistake. But it was also hard for me to give that up. Like that had been the thing that I had worked on and created and whatnot. Somebody else owns it now, and it's like the best. It is the best thing that has happened for my role. It was a mistake that I made, but it was hard. It was also very difficult. The day-to-day organizational information flow, I think, should be like what the director is trying to deal and handle, the director or VP for the principal engineer, so that the principal engineer can just rely on the director or VP to give them the organizational informational flow that they need to be worried about, because that's what the director and VP should be managing and dealing with, so that you don't have to be overwhelmed by the breadth of all of the information that goes on there. Okay, so a really good rule, if a PM or somebody from outside the team wants to interrupt, they have to go through the engineering manager. Or, I mean, I say anybody in the technical engineering team, so like leadership team. So you can also do like your, whatever you want to call them, engineering leads or um, principal engineers or I forget the other one. off the top of my head. They have to go through leadership if they're outside the team. Oh, the open office. Oh, the open office is fun. The open office makes rules very difficult. Um, I am a very, I try to be a very kind person. Um, I will go, I will butt heads with the chief product officer if they're going to bother, if they're going to break the rules. 100%. If we set these guidelines as the things we'll abide by, and you try to break them, I will go ahead and butt heads with them. Um, just because we have these rules because we assume that this is what's best. We have technical leadership because technical leadership can make those decisions. And you know what? They don't even have to bother me. My engineering managers, my chief, my principal engineers, they can come to me if they need me to weigh on it, but they can also deal with it themselves, and that's why they're there. Yeah, I really hate open office. You know what the worst thing about open offices is? Everybody then puts noise canceling headphones on to then get their work done, and you have just all the benefits that you claim about, which I'm going to put benefits in quotes. The only benefit is it's cheaper. But the benefits that you've clamored on about are all ruined by the fact that everybody does everything they can to be removed from everybody. Focus evaporating, security nightmare. They're the worst. They're the absolute worst. Building close horizontal relationships with other engineers. You know what? Having good relationships with all the teams is important. You know what? I can say like the biggest win I've had in my technical leadership thing is I generally work well with other people. People generally like working with me, and it also means that people then are like, yeah, let's work with Merrick's team or teams because they don't have a problem working with me. And usually both sides of the engagement comes out feeling like they were more than the whole. You know, the sums of our two teams working together came out, and we don't have to fight. So I think building those close horizontal relationships is really important, and one thing that has empowered my technical leadership. Cultivate weak ties by practicing active curiosity. Reserve time to explore outside your primary domain, volunteer your help, and pay it forward. That's what my YouTube channel is, paying it forward. Before long, you will be manufacturing serendipity. I love manufacturing. MS is my new thing, manufacturing serendipity. By connecting people and incentives, a robust network of weak ties can make all the difference in your ability to activate an idea or a product or project. Proactively engage teams and team leads. Absolutely. The number of inbound requests for support or feedback from me. Do you know what I love? I love it when engineering leadership goes to a team and says, hey, how can I help? Are you having problems? These should be reviews people are doing. These should be one-on-ones people should be doing. So my team lead should have one-on-ones with principal engineers. And they should be asking, hey, what do you need help with this week? What do you need? What do you see? They have boots on the ground. They probably see more than you do. And you can offer to help. Your team leads will love it. Your technical team leads will love it. And yeah, share your findings and thoughts to draw out feedback. I mean, sharing your findings and thoughts, obviously you should be working with your directors, your leadership team to give those types of things. That's kind of partly your job. Solicit feedback and minor lagging indicators to adjust your execution. Solicit feedback, absolutely. Everybody should be free to give feedback, even to me. Being clear on your role across projects help establish expectation and open opportunity for better feedback longer term. Track lagging indicators like team re-engagement and product success. Are the teams or individuals you've worked with coming back? Did your engagement result in positive launches and landings? The further you go, the more abstract the delayed the feedback becomes. Be proactive about it. Yeah, be proactive about feedback. Ask people in your one-on-ones, what's your feedback? Maintain a breadcrumb trail and document your engagements. Draft one page for each commitment that clarifies your role, title, time commitment, and shares. Wait. Maintain a breadcrumb trail and document your engagements. I guess they're saying make a document that describes what you're working on. That's always good. That kind of sets boundaries. Boundaries are actually a really good thing. A lot of times people don't like boundaries, and I don't understand it. To me, boundaries give you a easy way to say no. If you don't have boundaries, you can't say no. If you have boundaries and somebody asks you to help on something that's outside those boundaries, it gives you this nice, easy way to say, that's not my responsibility and I don't have the time for it. But if you go to my manager, if you go to my director, if you go to my VP and get their approval, great. I'll be able to drop something that is on my main priorities. Or if you have a little bit of time or you want to build that relationship and it's outside your boundaries, be like, well, it's outside my boundaries, but I'm happy to give you an hour or two throughout this next week. And you can build that relationship. But even then, you build gratitude because they know it's outside your boundaries and you don't have to. It's not part of your responsibilities. It's not your responsibility. So I think boundaries are one of the best things that you can do. Set good boundaries. Even as I'm going to say just an engineer. I don't think this applies to just your engineering leadership. This is something that is super valuable to anybody. Your engineers should have boundaries that they're not expected to cross. And you know what? Being able to say no without boundaries is actually a really good thing, but it's also hard. It's so much easier for your junior engineer or your engineer to say no if they have that boundary, because they can just rely on that. It's not them being the bad guy and saying, oh no. And I'm not saying it's a bad guy. I'm just saying you have a realistic expectation of what you can do. I just find boundaries to be really helpful, to just be like, hey, no, look, I can't, but you can talk to my boss, of course, and get my boundaries changed or an exception. I thought this article was really good. You can also use it to proactively see where things will be missed. Yeah, that's actually a good thing. If something doesn't fall in somebody's boundary, you know you have a problem. You know you have a problem. I thought this article was really good. I think my my favorite thing here was cultivating serendipity. Wait, who's deploying this? Oh, I'm not going to say that didn't happen this last 2 weeks. I'm not gonna say that there wasn't a wait. Who's deploying this? Maybe that happened. I don't know. I thought that this was good. I think I like it. Um, maybe there's some things where either on a whole, I really like this. And the manufacturing serendipity, I like that. Manufacturing serendipity. I'm using that. I'm using that for sure. I think honestly, there was definitely some things that were specific to a principal engineer or engineering leadership. I also think that there was a lot of good things just as a you know like this owner, stakeholder, supporter, friend. Understanding how to do this at every stage is also really important. Making sure that because engineers, it's not just principal engineers that are going to be asked to be the owner of too many things or the stakeholder. So I think honestly, even if you're a junior engineer, you could take this and as long as you knew where to take out the different things, and learn from some of this. Even even some of this stuff, like cultivating weak ties by practicing active curiosity. As an engineer, you should be doing that as well. That's what, like, I would say the people that make principal engineer are the people that are curious, that explore further on those types of things. Those are the people that actually work up, because they don't just do their job and go home. They're like, no, I had a question about this. I saw that you did this interesting thing here. Could you explain that to me? I'm curious. Software development is one of the best professions with one of the worst. Don't get me started on interview processes. Don't get me started. Like, one side of me says like, okay, there's a secret handshake. You go learn these random algorithms and you can pass the secret handshake. But it's a stupid secret handshake. It's stupid. No, you're right. No, okay, thank you. Scope creep. I need to get going. Thanks everyone for joining. I appreciate your time. I hope that you guys enjoyed. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I ranted too much. I apologize. I should have stuck more to reading the article. I did like it a lot. I did like it a lot. Thank you so much for your guys' time. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the news. Hopefully next week I have a little bit more news to actually go over. It was a pretty quiet week from what I saw. Yeah, I'll see you guys next week.